princess's fairy tale. So for this one, I decided to do a princess castle. I stacked up Oreos, iced them, and then covered them in fondant to make up the castle's turrets, I believe they're called. But then I topped them off with chocolate-covered ice cream cones. Maybe this part is supposed to be considered a turret. I don't know. Out of fondant, I made some trim, and I used the open side of the piping tip to get those little cutouts, and then I made a door, some windows, and some bricks to dress up the walls. I also made some cute little flags to fly on the tops, but didn't think of a great way to secure them. I made them on toothpicks, but that just started cracking the cones when I tried to insert them, so I just said, okay, forget it. I carved in some little lines to look like brickwork or shingles, and then this is the part that I think really brought the whole thing together and made it look more pretty. Lots and lots of little yellow rosettes. Also, so each of the 3 cakes had a common thread tying them all together, I threw on some edible pearls. A few of you really liked the mermaid cake and hoped the other cakes were just as good, so you'll have to let me know how this one compares. 1 party, 3 birthday cakes, and we've already done a mermaid theme for the oldest sister, a princess castle for one twin, and now we just need a frozen themed cake for the other twin. These cakes are all 6-inch 2 layers, so they're relatively small, and to make them all feel a bit grander, I decided to give them each decorations that would give them more height. So for this one, I did some snowy, wintry trees, and I would start by piping the leaves on while holding it in my hand, but would leave myself a little handle so that I could easily place them onto the cake and then finish them off on there. I made a little fondant crown that I thought I was done with, but was not, and then, like the mermaid cake, I did some rice paper sails, but instead of them representing waves, I wanted them to look like icy shards. I think my problem with the crown was that I wasn't loving that shade of blue with the blue shade of the cake, so to remedy that, I just brushed it with some pearlescent glittery dust. And then the little balls on top kept falling off, which was super fun. Once I got all those little suckers on there for good, the finishing touch was adding all different sizes of edible pearls. I'm not sure which of these cakes is my favorite, but if you have a rankings list, you'll have to let me know. I was on a bit of a time crunch with this cake, which is why it was a little bit silly of me to try out a brand new cake decorating technique for the first time. So this is a donation cake, and the birthday girl likes Moana, and I thought it would be cool to make a wave out of poured sugar.
Te conozco, Nicole.
Added some great flavoring to make it taste like a jelly
Te conozco, mujer.
of course, and
Una sola cosa, ¿oíste? Bueno, quiera Dios. Te conozco, Nicole.
I almost scratched the whole idea.
Yo espero que sea una sola cosa, nada más. Y un carrito por una sola vaina.
So
Ay,
then
pero
I
esto
got
no
to
es
go back to my
normal.
comfort zone and just decorate the cake, but me and my
Eso es tan
were
grande,
having
Nicole.
some hard feelings. I wasn't sure how I felt
Ah, bueno, pues ya
about
vámonos a
it. I tried
pagar.
to make some foam, and my husband was like,
Pero tú
I
dijiste
don't
una
think
sola
so.
vaina.
I agreed, so I wiped that off, added
Yo te
some
dije
more
que yo
sugar
te
starch
conozco,
and
Nicole.
basil, and then the birthday girl, under her interest,
Pero tú dijiste
said
una
that
sola
she liked
vaina,
pink, so
mujer.
I made it in pink in a Moana-style font. I piped on
Ay,
some
pero tú dijiste
scattered
una
sea
sola vaina y
stars
mira por
and
dónde
shells and
vamos.
whatnot. For the ones on the top, I had to
Mío,
dig
¿qué
down
es
some
el
little spots of
Wi-Fi?
sand so that
Pero Nicole, y ese otro carrito para seguir echando vaina.
tiny cake, and I hope the birthday girl loved it, but let me know what you think.
Ay,
I've
pero
made
esto
a few of
fue
these vlog cakes before, but I think you'd agree with me that this
Yo
is
te
the
dije que
cutest
te
one.
conocía,
It's a smash
Nicole.
cake for a 1-year-old boy, so it's small. It's just 4 inches,
Aquí
but I
yo
feel
llevo
like we
todo
were still able
Yo
to
te dije que te
squeeze in a
conocía,
good array of
Nicole.
design elements.
Y entrate
I thought it would be cool to leave a section open on the trunk so it would look like the
Ay,
word
te
one was
laima.
carved into it, and I was very happy to get permission for that. And since his birthday is during fall, his mom requested for some pumpkins to be added in. I decided to go with a more muted shade of orange because the party inspiration pictures that she sent me didn't really have any bright colors, so I wanted the cake to kind of look cohesive with those. She also asked for there to be a little bear perched on the top of the cake, so I piped on the stems for the mushrooms and the base of the bear's body, and then I put the whole cake in the freezer to chill for a little bit, and that just made it more stable for me to go back in and pipe more globs of frosting on top of those things. It's especially helpful for the mushrooms, especially for small ones like these, because I find if I don't chill it, then the stems just kind of squish under the pressure of the piping. I wanted to give the bear a little present to hang on to, but I was not loving that shade of green with the cake, so I painted over it and it was complete. Let me know what you think. I don't usually record all of my cake orders because sometimes I have orders that are a little more simple, and while I love making them, I don't always feel like they would be the most interesting for you to watch. But on this day, I had 2 of them, so I figured why not? This first one was a red velvet, and it needed 2 coats of frosting because that pesky dark color just kept wanting to peek through. The sides and the top were both going to get pearls kind of spaced out and placed all over the cake. I started off by trying to throw them on, but then I wanted a little bit of a finer placement, so I hand placed them. And the writing for this one was actually very exciting because it was the husband's birthday and she was going to use the cake as a way to announce to him that she's pregnant with baby number 2. I'm eventually going to go back in and go over the writing in black, but the pickup isn't till the next morning and I didn't want to risk there being any bleeding, so I'm going to wait till then. And now it's the next morning because this cake also needed black and I also didn't want it to bleed, so I iced it the night before and now I'm going back in with all the decorating. For this order, she sent me 2 cakes that she liked. One had kind of that fault line bottom, so she wanted that done in black. And the other one said, "Let me raise a toast to the boy I love the most," in a very casual handwritten font, but she wanted to change boy to man. And then that one was complete and I could finish piping the last layer of writing on the other cake. Both of these orders were actually from first-time customers and they said they loved the cakes upon pickup, and then they texted me afterwards to give me rave reviews on the flavor, which made me so happy because I'm always nervous about that. But that's it. What do you think? This might be the cake order that I'm most jealous I didn't get to eat myself. The birthday boy said he's too old for a theme, but he wanted a s'mores flavored cake, so we really just leaned into the whole s'mores explosion. And every layer really is s'mores on s'mores on s'mores. We have a chocolate cake with a graham cracker crust, which I love a graham cracker crust. I think that's the part that hurt me the most. And then toasted marshmallow buttercream, which I had never made before, but was absolutely delicious. You basically spread marshmallow fluff out onto a cookie sheet, broil it in the oven for a few minutes, and then whip it into your buttercream, and it is so good. Anyway, once I got some graham cracker crumbs placed along the bottom of the cake and then a chocolate drip on top, I spent what felt like 30 minutes at the stove roasting marshmallows and mini marshmallows. I assembled a few s'mores for the top and then kind of just piled on the deconstructed ingredients around it. And then the sides were feeling kind of bare, so I added some clusters along the bottom to help balance it all out. And you'll have to let me know what you think about this one. It's definitely chaotic, but hopefully in a good way. I don't know whose idea it was to put a miniature cake on top of an ice cream cone, but geniuses walk among us, and here we are. I used some cake scraps to cut out 2 teeny tiny layers of cake, and I had to be very careful when icing these, barely applying any pressure, because just the slightest bit too much and they would wibble and wobble all over the place, especially this tiny top layer. I wanted to ice 1 layer pink and 1 layer blue, but didn't want it to look like a gender reveal cake, so you'll have to let me know what you think about that. And then I knew I wanted to fill the inside of the cone with ice cream, so I coated it with some melted chocolate, hoping that that would keep the ice cream from seeping through in case it got too melty. I put that in the fridge to harden and then also applied a chocolate drip to both layers of the cake and put those in the fridge to harden. And my cone was ready to fill with ice cream. You could also probably fill it with like a cake pop dough. I'm sure that would be delicious. I also piped a thin layer of frosting on top of the ice cream just to kind of seal it off and keep it from getting to the cake. And once it was all stacked in place, I could add my final decorating touches, which was some borders, a dollop on top, and a cherry I made out of modeling chocolate. I did cut it in half to show you the insides, and I think these would be so fun to serve at a party, especially because you don't need any utensils to eat them, kind of just like a cake pop. What do you think? I don't know why I thought it would be a good idea to make cake pops. I hate making cake pops, and I knew that. Even worse, these weren't even for a customer. These were for me. It was my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't really feel like making a full cake, and I had carrot cake scraps, so it seemed like a good idea. One of my first problems is what you're probably thinking, that this color is horrendous, and I learned that you're not supposed to use a water-based food coloring to dye chocolate. That was supposed to be brown. So anyway, that's good to know. My idea for these was that my family was coming over to grab dinner, and I thought it would be so fun if everyone got their own personalized cake pop with something individualized.
Mira, Nicole.
For example, my husband loves cake, so I made him a really tiny one with stuffings on it because I knew he wasn't gonna like it, but I didn't want him to be left out. My Oma has tea cookies like every day, so I made her a little chocolate chip cookie guy. And then obviously it was my birthday, and I'm a cake decorator. So I made myself a little birthday cake with a little candle sticking out of it. The previously colored one was from my cousin, which I re-dipped, and because she's so great at art, it was going to be I tried making these mini paint palettes out of fondant to go on the stick, and I wish I had used the big one, but long story short, I didn't think I was going to need it, and I took a bite out of it. Yeah, I thought I was going to make huge treasure, but down the line when I realized that I was not enjoying myself in any way, I settled for one each. And for this pop, I forgot that I should have added a sprinkle of chocolate was still wet, so I remelted it to add those. Right now he's in an aquarium, so he's getting a little fishbowl. And I will say it was kind of fun because when everyone came over, I had them guess whose cake pop was whose, which was pretty easy. Like this one was for my mom, who has always loved horses. And it was kind of funny because at dinner, she told me that she was surprising me with a horseback ride for my birthday. And then my Opa is German and therefore loves his beer. So he got a beer stein, and I also coated the bubbles in some extra sugar to make it look foamy. But that was it. And if I ever make cake pops again, sue me. If you're looking for the perfect girls' night craft, this is it. My cousin brought over these wooden boxes and we turned them into vintage style cakes using paint and lightweight spackle. So you paint the whole thing first, and we both wanted to paint the inside of the boxes a fun color so that when you opened it, it's a little pretty fun surprise. Then for the piping, we used the spackle and mixed up all the colors we needed using whatever paints we wanted. And I will say, I wasn't expecting it, but spackle pipes like a dream. It was such a nice consistency to work with, but do be careful about adding too much paint because it can lose a little shape when you pipe it if you do. And if you're messy like us, I would definitely put something over your work surface because we needed it. But for the design, I wanted to do mine in yellow because that's my favorite color, and at this point it was definitely reminding me of Belle's dress from Beauty and the Beast, but I wasn't mad about it. My cousin made little fake cherries out of red beads and wire, and they were so adorable. I was gonna add them on top of mine too, but once I got going, I wasn't sure how it would match. I ended up going with a crosshatch design with some borders and 3 bigger rosettes. And these were dried to the touch by the next morning, but I think it takes 48 hours for them to dry completely. Let me know what you think and if I should have added the cherries on mine. I often get comments on my cake videos saying how it's the typical American way with all the sugar and frosting, which I understand, and I know those people are gonna have a field day with this one. This one has the sugar and it also has the spice because we're making a hot Cheeto cake, and believe it or not, this is actually the second hot Cheeto cake I've made. I did one when I was working at the grocery store and now this one at home, and they're similar but a little different. I did the Cheeto color grading on the sides, and then I was able to print out the logo and stick that on. And the top needed to have the bag looking like there was Cheetos kind of spilling out of it. So I used a straw to stick that in and hold it in place, and then I covered the exposed part of the straw with some frosting and stuck some Cheetos onto it. I did a red drip just on part of the cake, and then I feel like the front needed something still.